Okay, thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight to kind of clarify. I was in a dental chair getting a root canal yesterday, so you did not want me talking here. The might have been funnier, but I don't know that it would have been better. I know Zendel represented what my ask was, but what he didn't have, I didn't know he was going to do that. There was a little confusion. So I have some additional detail that I would like to clarify for you with that ask that he presented last night. Jason and I and a team member from each of our teams went to a conference recently. We just got back actually, and I learned some things there that necessitated some adjustment to what I had asked for. So the ask was for $50,000. The original ask was to go into a major media buy. Learning what I learned at the conference, given that the expo is fairly new to the meeting planner scene, there's a strong need for us to have a presence and be known on a face-to-face, business-to-business type perspective, as well as the media side. Not wanting to increase that ask, what I would like to do is break that down to $20,000 to go into travel to allow me to attend the 3 major meeting planner meetings. So I'm face-to-face, one-on-one with meeting planners that actually plan the types of meetings that we are trying to attract to the expo, and the $30,000 to go into strengthening our media buy. And what that does is it gives us a broader awareness. The reach can be regional, the reach can be local. I'm not really so much focused on the local as I am the regional, and that will give us a stronger buy. Plus, we're able to also, if we do that, we're also able to offer that savings from that bulk buy to our event planners, and then that gives them an opportunity to buy media at a discounted rate also. So it's an added benefit for our event planners when they come in. Anybody have any questions? Yes. Do I think I can operate with less on the media side? Yes, it's a matter of how much we can do. Yes, you could do less, but then the reach is going to be less, and the extent. But I understand and respect the fact that we also have the pay study at this time as well. So yes, but the being face to face, that's not something I really want to give up a whole lot, because that is my opportunity to be there to have conversations and to explain to them who we are, what we do. And whether it's me or whether it's Jason, we both have each other's information. We can cross-sell county and the expo simultaneously. That personnel request was Zendel's, and that is actually for a full-time person to help with staffing and setup. Right now, we have reached capacity in how much we can turn with the present staff. We have Zendel. He has a supervisor and 2 other staff people that help turn every event we have. Right now, I don't have the bandwidth, or they don't have the bandwidth, to turn an event from the end of the day today to have it ready for the next event tomorrow. That's costing us rental days, and that's the reason why. Plus, if somebody goes on vacation, somebody gets ill, now you're down to 1 person to do that with the help of a supervisor, and that is logistically almost impossible. 1. He's asking for 1. Yeah. We're trying to be conservative about how we do that. I mean, I would like to have another person on my side of it, but I can't do my job if they can't turn the rooms. So we'll suck it up and do what we need to do. Any other questions? I just broke the 50 down into 2 pots. I broke it down into 20 that would go into the travel for the meetings, and then the 30 for the media buy. So the total is the same. Thank you for listening.
Do what? You want a speech? Y'all ready? Have y'all got a list of what we're asking for, right? Is there anything you wanted me to explain to you on that or anything?
Where would the new clerical personnel be?
Mountain G at one here, one here.
One here, Mountain View.
And what we're asking for on that, just the benefits, we got the money to pay it as far as salary goes.
So 111, 1 Mountain View.
Mm-hmm.
So 80,000 would actually be part of the letter of agreement.
You know, last year we just liked a few dollars turned in $1 million in excess fees, so we got the money to pay it. It's no problem. Another probably a big thing there would be our postage. We are in the middle of a new plate issue statewide, and we're having to mail out that metal, and it's expensive. It's paid for basically it's a wash. You get the money back, but we have to have that money for our postage. We're just spending so much of it.
You said a new mail out plate, not the blue plate?
The blue plate, yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Maintenance repair deals with software.
Do what now?
Maintenance and repair, it deals with software.
What was the deal on that?
That was the money that I had to move out of last year when we did the ClearGov. I had to move it out of the maintenance and repair to cover postage last year, and I needed to leave it in maintenance and repair, because that's how we pay our software maintenance every year with that money.
But it was in there last year?
Well, I had moved it out to pay for postage, to get some postage, so, because our postage was short, you know how you move the line items, and then it needs to go back into the state.
Not have it in there?
So I think what she's saying is she needs to leave postage where it is, and also she needs, so last year she took the money out of make repair and repair the.
Yeah, it's got to go back. I mean, that's something you got to pay.
It's just a wash.
It's a
Yeah.
wash, yes, it's
Yeah.
a wash.
Well, you needed to stay in postage.
I needed
If
to-
you moved in postage, you needed to stay, or you need to move it back.
What she's saying is that, she's saying last year she had money left over, so she moved the postage to cover the extra postage. But she really needs to keep that money in there, so she's increased her line item in postage. So that maintenance line right there probably doesn't have to be in there, but it's increased her line item in maintenance.
Right,
I think we increased her line item in postage,
Mhm.
right?
right, well, maintenance needs to stay, maintenance needs to stay the 16, because every year it's gonna be that much for our maintenance.
Is it 14 right now?
It's 2 right now.
Two, so you wouldn't say, you wouldn't move it to
Move it
16.
back to right, yes, yes.
That's what I'm understanding, is that basically she's saying she left the 14 in postage where she moved it, because they still think they need the 14, but they also need the 14 in maintenance if they move it.
And it would be as long as it is brought, I could take it back out and move it, and then ask for more in postage, you see what I'm saying? So I just kinda did that, and then, yeah.
We're looking at line 337, right? I'm looking at your status quo right now, and it's 337's already at $14,600, $14,600.
Well, it's already at 14,000.
Yes, I don't think you, I think your status quo,
Roll back in.
it rolls back into you, and you stay in there, and you just need to increase that postage, so you don't have to borrow anymore to pay for that postage.
Correct.
So the 14 really don't have to be there, that's my opinion.
As long as it's there, my status quo.
That's, it's gonna be that's.
Okay, there we go.
Please cross that line out.
We'll double check tomorrow, make sure.
I think they got that worked out.
Postage 915, yeah. Now, here's the thing though, this is what I can't tell from this. The 2022 budget amendment amended, that would include the 14 that she already moved out. So in other words, she could have started with 28 and moved 14 out. I can't tell from this.
I don't know either, I was just asking the question, because somebody now
Yeah.
knows it.
I can't tell what she started with, so I can't, unless I go back and figure out what she started with, I can't tell.
We'll set it.
Move to 40 hours. Okay, okay. I'm asking for an update.
Is there a motion?
Second.
There's a motion and a second to accept the county clerk's list. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Thank you, sir.
Thank y'all.
Test, no. Okay, we are asking for 49,000 in addition to the refunds, which are the tax relief for the county taxpayers. Last fall, it was approved that veterans and all people that qualify for the tax relief program will get an extra $100. So based on, I kind of did a little schedule. I don't know if you have the backup to that $49,000 extra. The status quo is $328,750. We're anticipating 100 new qualifying disabled vets at $100 is $10,000, and 130 new elderly qualified at $300 would be $39,000. And so the total additional requested is $49,000. For a total of $377,750. And then in the postage, our status quo is $43,000 for the 21-22 year. We're asking additional $7,929. What that makes up, I have a letter here from our printer who does the tax notices, the printing of the tax notices, the folding and inserting them and mailing them out. We include that in postage. So it's everything to do with billing the taxpayers for the 22-23 tax cycle. She asked for a 25% budget increase due to labor and supply costs. So I took 25% of last year's bill just for printing the bills alone. That was the $29.29. And then I've also just asked for $5,000 more because of the growth. I'm not sure how many more new tax bills we'll have, but that'll, you know, add into the postage, the printing, and everything. So that would, we're asking now for a total of $50,929 in the postage.
There's a motion and a second to accept. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed?
Thank you.
Tourism.
Evening, everyone. First of all, my committee chair, Commissioner Sue, thank you so much for helping me get this scheduled today. I did not have a root canal last night, but I did have twin boys in a baseball playoff game, so I couldn't miss that for anything. I'm sorry. Looking for an additional $25 to add to 302. 25,000. Can you do that? Can you handle $25,000 to add to 302 advertising line item with focus primarily on the Nashville Super Speedway and all things involved in that. We have involvement and partnership with the Speedway as it is right now. The issue is I think we're missing a lot on getting in front of these folks before they get here. We have the banners up and we have the presence there. With this additional 25, we're going to be able to have a presence on the Nashville Super Speedway website. We're going to be able to get email blasts through them with prospective ticket buyers and purchasers, getting Wilson County in their mind before they get here. The paper I showed out that I handed out to you guys showed the taxes and the economic impact of the race last year. Down at the bottom, the state taxes generated for race weekend was $2.4 million. Local tax generated in Wilson County was $740,000 roughly. I'd like to see that Wilson County number a lot higher. And I think this is how we do it, is to get Wilson County in their mind by doing that through an additional buy-in and sponsorship. As I say, you can always live with less, but can you do the reach that you really want to do? I could do more with more, and I could do less with less. So yes, I mean there's always less that can be done, but like I say, looking at the tiers that we've worked out with Austin and the crew out there at the Speedway, this is a highly, with high exposure tier to get in there.
I certainly appreciate all of that, but we got these employees that's knocking hard on our doors.
Sure.
So, just,
Yes, ma'am. Understand.
Any other questions?
Let me understand this.
Sir.
You want to advertise, bring people into the county to go in the race.
Yes.
What do we have to offer to get them?
We have dining, shopping, lodging. We have everything basically that Rutherford County has when they're at the Speedway. They're now in Rutherford County. I'm trying to get them to do that 13-mile trip and not that 13-mile trip to bring money this way. So as far as option, like I say, the dining options, state parks, all the things we have, our murals, everything that they could do if they get here, especially these campers, they get here on a Wednesday. I'm already putting booklets in front of them. I want to hit at another touch point to know when they park their camper at the Speedway, now we're going to Lebanon. Now we're going to Providence Marketplace.
That's why I was asking
Sure.
what we had to offer that would make them, per one, they want. That's why I asked
Sure.
the question.
I understand.
it kills me not to say it, just another chicken place.
A lot of times, and I think I'm guilty of it as well, we get blinded to the things in our own backyard that we have to realize are destinations for other people. We see the chicken place because that's the chicken place we drive by. Other people see a downtown that's amazing with some great shops and some great dining.
See, when I was negative, you was positive. You're selling Wilson County, and that's appreciated.
That's my job.
Motion and a second, all in favor, say aye. Any opposed?
Thank you.
Sue?
Okay, Tourism Development Grant. The Tourism and Development Committee met a week or so ago, and we allocated funds to the different groups that came and that requested funding. There was one group that came, they're called the Fight Pheasant House, and I don't know how many people know about this. It's down on West Main Street. It's been closed for several years, but it's a Wilson County History Museum. There's a lot of historical things. I know Diane's very familiar with it. They came and asked for an extra 1,000. If I'm correct, I remember this, Wendell, if they got 2,500, that made them eligible for a little bit of a grant money, matching grant.
Yes.
And so we voted through the Development Tourism to ask for another $1,000 to give them that opportunity to go after some grant money with that $2,500. Wendell, you were there. Is there anything else I need to say to it?
And, we put together, obviously, we put together a status quo budget, and there was a few changes, in people who came before us asking for assistance. And so, we were able to, because some didn't come, we took those funds and distribute them out, but, to make it, get to that one spot, we were $1,000 short, so,
And let me add this, they just did a tour with some other entities here in the county and had school children come to like the city, Veterans Museum, the City Hall, and the Fight Pheasant House. There's like 400 something kids that came through there that didn't even know it existed, and their parents didn't know it existed. So they're really promoting it now.
Motion to accept.
have a motion and a second. Any other questions? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Veterans?
Good afternoon, all. So I know you can see what I'm asking for. I'm just going to talk through some of this a little bit and make it all understanding. So for 105 and 161, I'm asking for additional money so we can have 40 hours at our office. Right now, we're currently working under 35 hours. And to put that all into perspective, with 3 of us at 35 hours right now, we're scheduling out to the middle of August. Okay, so an additional hour will be open from 8 to 4:30 is what we propose, and then taking a 30-minute lunch. That will help us, give us an extra hour or 5 hours a week to make sure that we can help take care of our veterans. So and again with that we're looking at almost 10,000. It ebbs and flows. The numbers do, and we're bringing in over 85 million to the county every year with veterans. So if we can continue, if we can get that 40 hours, that helps us to do more claims. And then also we're doing a lot of outreach for each of the organizations. Now we're doing early appointments and appointments actually at those meetings. So we're trying to knock these appointments out, but I mean at what cost to us as well. It's just 3 of us, so if we can get those 40 hours, that would be great. Also asking for just a little bump in our temporary personnel monies, so that when we're traveling or we're training, because a lot of times we have in-office or out-of-office training and we have to close and lock the office, but if we can have somebody at the front desk just for an hour or 2 or however long that training is, that would work. And a new thing that I'm asking for is just a part-time person, having that person working a couple of days a week, or maybe a few hours, half day or whatever, up to 1,000 hours, and that's what they would have to. Those are the amount of hours they would have to work in order to be a certified service officer. Looking at different ways to, again, help us knock down these numbers and make sure that we're providing the best service that we can for our veterans in the office. Let's see, other things that you may see. You look, big increases are 307, just our communications. We actually pay our own broadband and our office phones. I know a lot of the directorates don't, but we actually pay our own, so that's why you see that increase in that. Let's see what the big ones are. Which one? $399. So with that, we're looking at $399 is actually our monies that are pulled over from what we have for the Veterans Museum, the plaza, and things like that. So what we're looking at is we have a new branch of service, which is Space Force, and we don't have anything Space Force out on the plaza. So we're gonna have to make sure that we update and get everything upgraded for that. We have to represent all 6 branches of service out there. Also for the wall engravings and the bricks, we do have monies that we're able to move over, but those monies aren't coming in like they used to. Right now I'm showing that we had like $14,000, but we have about 4 of that still due out for wall engravings and AED we had to purchase, and also some new routers that we had to purchase. Again, everything that happens in our buildings we pay for. So that's going to bring us down to like less than $10,000 that we have in the account to move over to $399 when we need to do things for the museum and for the plaza. So that's why we're asking for those monies there.
Okay, with that.
Yes, sir.
That 10,000.
Yes, sir.
It's under recurring. Would that not be a non-recurring?
It could be non-recurring, yes, sir. Are there any questions or anything else that you guys see on there? Oh, the one thing. Oh, let me talk about the $499, the No Vet Left Behind program. And after speaking with LeBronya, that very well, instead of being a line item, may have to be a resolution that's proposed for that. And so I'll be willing to sit down with anyone so we can take a look at that. But our No Vet Left Behind program is a program to provide emergent services for our veterans. So yes, we do have HUD-VASH, and we have MASH, and we have Operation Stand Down, and we have all those programs. But those programs don't provide emergent services. And normally when a veteran comes in, it's on a Friday at 2 o'clock. And Operation Stand Down and nobody else can do anything for them until at least on Monday. And on Monday, that's when they would do the intake. So it'll take a couple of days. So if, what we're looking at is to be able to provide some emergent housing for them. We've talked to, and I've developed some partnerships with some of our hotels and motels that we have out here. They'll give us a discounted rate for a week for them, pay for that, because by the time it doesn't take a week. So if we give them a week in that hotel, that gives anybody that's working with them enough time to be able to get them into that program and to get them some housing. Standard. This is for Wilson County veterans, and so for we're not funded to do anything like that. So we fall, if we're going to do anything, we fall on the auspice of Wilson Warriors as our nonprofit, but our office isn't funded for any of that. Thank you.
Hello, I am asking for an additional $15,300. One line item is to increase the amount for internet service, which is $800 more. $3,000 more for our streaming, which is maintenance and repair, line 336. That would be for the streaming. Also, $5,500 in line 399. We've talked about this before with the cable company. We are looking to create the on-screen program guide. As it stands right now, if you are at home and you turn to our channel, all you see across there are the words government. So if you have a DVR or you want to record, the county commission meeting or the budget meeting or whatever and play it back later, you can't do that unless you manually, well, I don't even know if you can do it at all. I don't have a DVR anymore. But anyway, it allows you to see exactly what time things are coming on. And that would get us on all the cable companies that we're currently with, including Comcast when we come online with them. By the end of the summer, we'll be on TDS. I do not know about being able to do it on TDS, but this $5,500 would be recurring, and this would get us on TDS, Comcast when they come on board, Charter, AT&T, and we'll see about TDS a little bit later. And then the last thing would be a non-recurring one-time $6,000. One of the pieces of equipment that we use, it's called Carousel. It's the digital signage. It's what you see in between programs at the top of the hour and the bottom of the hour. It's where the music plays and you see what time it is and you see the temperature. I've gotten word from them that that is reaching end of life. And the end of life means that it's about not really to die, but it's not good to have it. And Aaron can correct me if I'm wrong, but what happens is it could still be working, but the securities and firewalls and all this little get-you-magoos in there that make it need to be more secure. So let me preface this by saying it could work for years, but there also could be a worm in there and get in there as well. Now, you also might say, well, Teresa, let's wait till it tears up before we buy it. That's fine. It'll take 2 to 3 weeks to get another one, and we won't have any digital signage. It will not affect the channel. It'll just be all the programs are bumped close together, which we could do that. So that certainly is up to y'all. So the 800, come on, Teresa, 800, 3K, 55, 6,000, 15,300. One is three of them are recurring, and one of them is the one-time piece of equipment. My job to buy that. You know, I have thought about that from the very beginning. They would have to be very generic, as we've talked before. Just, Annette Stafford proudly, supports the channel, whatever. Yes, ma'am, it could. We'll just leave it at that. Yes, it could. Having a background of media advertising, we absolutely could. There's just one of me, though, but it could be done, absolutely. And some of that is offset, not necessarily with that, but the sponsorships of the basketball games and so forth. So, and I didn't even bring that in here. So, we sponsor the basketball games, football games again this year, so there's a little bit of offset to that as well. But yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Motion to accept.
A motion and a second, any other questions? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed?
Thank you.
Okay, clerk and manager.
Yes, he's here to help, answer any questions. Okay, we are asking for an increase of $42,493.07 plus employee benefits. We are wanting to add another full-time employee to our probate office.
Give y'all some idea, our probate court is extraordinarily busy with the growth of the county like everything else. In 2020, we had over 500 new cases, 512. In 2021, we had 613. We had a 100 case increase. And to give you some idea, these ladies, including Ms. Tidwell and Ms. Sloan, work extraordinarily hard in that office, as you know. But they're processing a tremendous amount of paperwork. Conservatorships, lots of paper. Decedents' estates, lots of paper. I participated in a judicial forum back in October with a probate judge from Davidson County, Judge Kennedy, probate judge from Rutherford County, Judge Gilly, and the probate judge from Sumner County, Chancellor Oliver. And the question was asked if they filed a new petition for conservatorship or an estate in my court, how quickly could we get it heard? And this was asked to all the judges. Judge Kennedy said 3 months. Judge Gilly said probably 3 to 4 weeks. Chancellor Oliver, same thing, about 3 to 4 weeks, about a month. I told them, if you file it today, we can hear it next week. And the reason we can do that is because of the way these ladies work and how much time and effort they put in. At the rate we're growing, if we don't add another full-time person, my concern is we may be in that 3 to 4 week span. And, you know, what they do, what this probate court does in the clerk's office, they serve people when they're really upset. They've lost a loved one, you know, they've just buried somebody, or a loved one has gone to a point where they're mentally not capable of taking care of themselves anymore, and they're having to take on that responsibility or get somebody to do that. So I think it's very important, and I'm not going to speak out of turn, but I think it's very important that we serve the citizens of Wilson County as quickly as possible when they're in those very desperate times. And so I think that's why I believe we really need this full-time position. Anything to add?
Nope, you did great.
Any questions?
Any other questions or comments? Motion
To accept.
motion to accept.
Thank y'all very much.
Yes, thank you.
All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Thanks.
Start off. Hi, I didn't know I was supposed to bring a judge with me. I don't know where Jimmy Lee is or Judge Kane, but I'm asking for 3 full-time employees. This is the first time I've ever been in this committee. I've never had needs before. We've made it work. It's my first visit. I've done my status quo, and I've done everything that we try to be as conservative as possible. But you know what the first thing out of my mouth is? Growth. Everybody knows. All the new arrests, it's all coming. All that paperwork's coming through my office. So it's his fault that I need these people. Actually, I'm just kind of asking for the benefits because we're going to bring in enough fees to pay them, but I need the benefits for them. We year to date right now in sessions, and we're talking, when I say a file, I mean one of these with paperwork in it. We've over 2,600 right now, and we've still got 7.5 months to go. Traffic, 1,539, 7.5 months to go. My circuit, general sessions, I think we're okay over there. The divorces are up, but I think we're pretty sufficient there. But I have got to have, positively got to have, I need these 3, but juvenile, y'all gave me a new magistrate. So now, when he's on the bench and Judge Tatum's on the bench,
And if I have somebody out sick, I got nobody in juvenile to cover the counter at all. So it's really been a struggle. We've tried to schedule it to where they're not on the bench at the same time, but sometimes there are emergencies and you have very limited hours to get those through. So it does happen. Criminal, of course, is up. General Sessions never slows down. And things have changed. I have to put a new person in General Sessions now because we don't do it like we did with Judge Barry. He would limit it. Now it's not limited. Judge Lee's got it going rocking and rolling, so I have to keep 2 in there. So I'm minus a person in Sessions as well.
Chancery and circuit, both those, all their salaries are budgeted, so they do not scratch that salary off. It will actually go into the budget in your private.
And then we would amend our letter of agreement.
Which I would also say, with what the county clerk said, although he's not completely wrong, when he says I can cover it, that's less money coming into your general fund. So even when they say I can cover it, don't worry, just understand that there is money leaving.
Okay, Aaron, you know how to fit in here. Judge, where are you at? Well, I've already said your side's working great, so. Thank you.
Actually, I just got a pocket knife, so we're good. I'm good with it. Yeah, I've heard that before. You got your packet in front of you that of my needs, and I just want to say this is pending. I still have to have my law enforcement meeting on June the 2nd. Is that right, Commissioner Rich? We've had to cancel a couple of them over the past few weeks. So, in saying that, as far as the needs, first of all, I'm going to get into it a little bit more here in a little bit, but I would ask, and I know you are working hard to consider the pay increase. That's number one in my book as a need, that you really look at that and understand. And we've said many times that we have open positions in our office right now. We got 20 open corrections positions right now, 4 openings in dispatch, and 1 opening in patrol. So in saying that, we need a tool to recruit and retain. The problem I see with this is the 20 corrections officers is that only got 2 applications pending, and it's been out for months. So it's getting hard to recruit. So in my needs, in saying that as far as corrections, we was anticipating the opening of the new facility, and we got to breaking down the opening dates for the new facility and where all this is going to fall along the way. And in the needs, you'll see there's 10 in there, and them 10 were anticipation working towards hiring people for the opening of the new facility. We're being told that it's going to be probably August of next year before that facility opens, ready to be turned over. So in saying that, we can kick the can down the road, and I don't mind doing that, but I want on the record over here that I'm doing it because it's going to come back within a year. And I'm just trying to be a team player here. That's what I'm trying to do. And you know what that means, Tommy Jones. But in saying that, I'll leave that in y'all's ball court. I'm saying that if we don't do it today, we're going to have to do it a year from now. The 10 positions. Now y'all can do it half. Y'all can do it whole. That's up to y'all. Y'all make that decision. But I'm throwing it out there that that they will have to be funded by in next year's budget. And in saying that, yes, Mayor. No. I would say by the time's all said and done, in saying that when we open that facility, we're not going to open that whole facility. Okay, so we're going to take our existing personnel. I would really love to fill these 20 open positions first, but at that, once we get fully staffed, I'd say 10 next year, maybe. Don't quote me on this yet, because I don't know. It could be 10 the following year, because it's as we open parts of that facility up. So 10 to open. You could. But I also want to cover the other 2 positions on there, and I get calls every day about speeding. One of them patrol officers on your needs list right there is for a traffic officer to add to an existing traffic officer I got right now. That is so busy he can't keep up, and the majority of the county commissioners have called me about speeders here, there, everywhere. I can't keep up. We cannot keep up. One officer can't keep up. That will allow me to get more in different areas. So that's 1 patrol officer, and next is the warrants. And you've heard the clerks, and I'm gonna point at Debbie Moss right here. The warrants, it comes out of her office, right over there. You pointing at me, and her office, and the judge. They come through my office, and we can't keep up. Them warrants have to be entered. They have to be entered in NCIC as wanted people, and it's just, we got 1 person doing it right now. They can't keep up. So that's 1 position that I'm asking for a warrants clerk. So, but I will leave that in y'all's ballpark as it relates to them correctional officers. Is it a good idea to kick it down the road? I don't know. As long as this is in her notes over there that I said it's going to have to be filled. I will have to have at least 10 people to open that facility in August of next year. I can't fill 20 right now, Tommy. And I try to do what's right. Okay. And if you do 5, you don't have to do 10 next year. What you're saying now. That's correct. I've got to fill them 20 people. I'm tell you, the 20 people are down in corrections. We're having to pay overtime, so it's catching up to us right now. So people's getting tired. And come see me.
Say aye. Any opposed?
Thank you.
General session closed.
Okay.
Judge Tatum's on his way, so by the way,
He's got the second
part
part.
of this that he's asking for.
But we're just doing a status quo budget with the increase of the judge's salary at the 4.7 mandatory. And then we're asking for $2,500 because we now have a magistrate in addition to our other 3 judges. And he has to pay the same dues that the other judges do. And we're just asking for $2,500 in dues.
Dues, professional privilege tax that we still have to pay.
Bar dues.
Bar dues, and there's always.
Conference dues and that type of thing. So that's what we're asking for there. And we're gonna go to the second one.
Do they not have a copy of this? Okay. No.
Okay.
This was Judge Tatum's part, and he's wanting, with the addition of the magistrate, we don't have another courtroom, obviously. He's wanting to partition his courtroom so that Judge Kennedy or Magistrate Kennedy would have a space to use when he has his court in session. Right now, what he's having to do is if Magistrate Kennedy's holding court in his courtroom, he's having to try to find another courtroom, so he's coming up to College Street and if there's one open and so forth, he's floating around, and so it's just well, he still has a home base, but he's decided to allow Magistrate Kennedy to have that because his dockets would be far longer than would be, maybe Judge Tatum would go up to College Street to hear a single case or a couple of cases and not have as many people have to move up there.
You want to talk, LaBranya?
Okay, so where your spreadsheet is, what he's speaking about with the breakdown of splitting Judge Tatum's courtroom is the remodel, and it's gonna come out of 189 capital projects. They originally were gonna try to give it out of courtroom security, but that's not qualified to come out of that area. So they're asking for 44,000, and it is the breakout of the electric, building the walls, the door frame, the hallway, furniture, heat and air changes, anything that they're gonna need to have him set up properly, that'll come out of that 44,000. Now, it is just a hair bit padded because we don't know the cost increases there, so, and by a little bit, I mean, maybe a couple of $1,000, but not by much.
So the majority of the walls really coming out of what we just on top of it.
We can't get anything from courtroom security. It doesn't qualify.
This is Kevlar for a judge's bench or a jury bench. It's not a reinforced wall. It's not a camera. It's not a metal detector. This is nothing that would qualify as courtroom security.
What about the judge's bench? That
If
one,
you're gonna put Kevlar in it and make it special,
Well,
we have,
we've done it in all the others.
then
Yeah.
yes.
Probably makes sense, and there's also gonna need to
Yeah.
be a camera in there for the security desk to monitor as well.
Yes, that portion, yes. The
Okay.
actual splitting of the courtroom into, no.
okay. And the cutting out the wall and all that.
Make a motion to accept the 2,500 and the capital project related.
You have a motion and a second. Any other questions or concerns? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed?
Thank y'all very much.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
You have anything you want to remind us of?
No, just that we will get the, version of this organized, get it back to all budget members, and we'll get everything exactly like it needs to be. Schedule that meeting, reinforce that, and then we'll get that to you early, so that when we come back on the 31st, we can start kind of making stuff. A couple of days there, we got things, we'll be able to get that done, we got to make it done all one time. And I think this time now, we would like to, staff to come forward, and talk through this,
Should I wait for him to come back? No? Okay. Well, good evening, everyone. Can you all hear me okay? I don't know, I'm short, so. Okay. All right. Well, I understand that there were some questions after our last presentation, so this, while the front page looks the same, is not the same thing. I thought that I would go through some different information to maybe help everyone understand kind of what we did. So tonight, what I'd like to go through is to talk about your previous, how things had been done in the county as far as compensation is concerned. Go over some basic terminology so that we're all talking about the things the same way, talking on the same page. Talk about how we do market pricing and get everything into pay grades, and then show you a couple of examples of individual jobs and how we got them there. And hopefully that will address some of the questions that we've heard about. And of course, if you have questions while I'm going through this, please let me know. But I'm hoping that this approach tonight will help answer the questions, some of the questions that I know that you all have had. So it is a new package that I believe Bethany has made sure you all have. It's not exactly the same one you have from before. So let us start. We'll talk about how compensation's been done in the county before. What you're used to, that's the old one. That is not what we're talking about tonight. Does the mayor have one? It's the new one Bethany just gave you. It should have this in there. Does it not have this presentation in it? Kiana said she was printing it out for everybody. I thought it was. Is it not in the back of the package? Is that not in there? Oh, only the budget committee. Ah, all right. Never mind. We'll get there. All right. So what you're used to is thinking of paying people at a rate as a percentage of the market. So 85, 90, 95. That's what this graph that's back there or up there shows you. You've got the line that is the market rate, and then paying people at either 85, 90, or 95% of that market rate. Well, there's some, whoops, wrong way. There are some problems with having a compensation strategy this way. So some of those problems are, number one, if you're paying everybody in the county at that same flat rate, you're creating pay compression between people that have just been hired and people that have been here for a long time. Well, you've got both. You've got long service people that have been here 20 plus years, 30 years, whatever, and you've got brand new people. If you're paying all of them at the same rate, that's called pay compression. And what it does is it creates some disengagement of your longer service people, because they're not going to be happy when they know somebody that just walked in the door is making the exact same amount of money that they're making, and they've been here and they have all this experience and all these responsibilities, and they're training the new person and they're making the same amount of money. Absolutely.
So in 16, we tried to do the step system, and there was complaints. We had people that, hey, you're going to stop me at 20 years, so year 21, I'm not going to get an increase. I don't like that. And so that's where we ended up going back and saying, okay, in 16, give longevity pay. So that guy that's training, that guy's got 30 years, he'd get 3 more thousand, not a lot, but he'd get 3 more thousand, that guy that walked off the street is gonna get 100 on longevity pay, just to take up for our side of the argument on how we got here. But I'm with you, I understand what you're saying, and I know that's why you put in the, what you're fixing to claim.
Right, and I'm not trying to. Right. I understand. I'm not trying to, insult you or anything. I'm just, okay. So I'm just saying these are some reasons why a long-term compensation plan works better doing it other ways.
Let me say why I said what I said. Me and you have had these conversations.
Yes, we have. Lots of them.
The rest of the people, when you start explaining this, may or may not understand why you're saying this.
Okay. All right. So the other things that this causes is you have some of your long-term people, when they start realizing these things, they'll start leaving. So you'll have some unproductive turnover. And then outside people will also learn that if they stick around, they're not going to get paid for sticking around. So they won't necessarily want to come work for you. So it does cause problems in recruiting. So there's a lot of reasons for moving to a new way of doing your compensation. So that's just trying to help you understand some of the reasons we're moving to a new method. So let's talk about some different terminology. And so all of these things are in this little packet, but in the handout there should be a little glossary as well. So, but these are all in your little handout. So first let's talk about median, because people throw out the word median or market median all the time. And the median is just the number that's in the middle of a set of ranked numbers. So you've got a list of numbers ranked in order from low to high, and the median's just the one in the middle. People confuse it a lot of times with the average. And so I want to show you just a quick example real fast. You've got a list of numbers, 2, 4, 12. The median is 4. You can see very clearly the average would be different. The average of this would be 6. So I only put this in here real quick because people get those two numbers very confused. The median is also the same thing as the 50th percentile. And that's important to understand because in this pay study, we are focusing on the 60th percentile. And the 60th percentile is just the number in that list of ranked numbers that 60% of the numbers are below and 40% are above. Yes, sir.
To give everybody the history again, when we started trying to do this and we said, hey, look, we're losing people to Williams and Sumner and all those places, we said, let's compare ourselves to Williams and Sumner rather than Montgomery County. We didn't want to pay more than those people were, we didn't want to pay less. And so you guys had the option, if you remember back in 16, to take the median, the median salary, okay, of whatever market was. We didn't get the high end of market, we took the median of market, which was the 50th percentile. And you only got them to 80% of median that year. We didn't go to 100%, okay? So that's where we were, I just want to explain it, that's how we got to the median to begin with. And she said, hey, this year we said the median, if we try to get to 100% of median, what's going to help our people now? We got to get to the 60th percentile, which is above the 50th percentile.
So when we talk about market rate, that's another term that's important to understand. It's the value of the job, and then we're basing that on actual pay from your competitors. We're getting it from two sources. One is from the benchmark group, and everybody I think has seen this list. That is the list of the public sector employers that we've identified as the good comparators to Wilson County. So that's our public sector group. And then the other is private sector employers. We have a database that we pull that from because you aren't only competing with public sector employers to hire your employees. You're competing with the people across the street. You're competing with the McDonald's and the Walmarts and the other businesses. So we have to include those in your employer comparisons. So what we do is we take the number from the public sector, take the number from the private sector, average those together, and that gives us the market rate. This one is one that seems to cause a lot of confusion. It's the salary market index. This is just a comparison of your employee's pay rate to the market rate. And it's kind of oversimplified on this. I see you smiling at the little smiley face in there.
That's obvious.
Yes, but it's trying to it's a little oversimplified, a little generalization here. But what we do is we take the employee pay rate, divide it by the market rate, and that gives us a percentage, and it's the percentage of the employee's salary compared to the market. Well, generally speaking, if they're paid at less than 85% of the market, they are underpaid. Thus, the unhappy frowny face. Okay, so that's what we're going to want to kind of keep in mind there. Under 85%, sad employees, not paid well. Now, it is overgeneralized to think that if they're above, you know, it depends on how long they've been with you as to where between that 85 and 100% or above they need to be. Yes, sir.
And so, again, back to where we were so low, getting to 85% back in the day, y'all decided that we could all afford to do. That was a good thing because we were way below the 85. So now we're going to go higher. So not thinking, well, why didn't we do that a long time? Because that was all we could afford at the time, 85% of median.
Well, unfortunately, not everybody is at 85% of your market rate. And part of that is because your market rate now is 60th percentile. But
back in the day,
right, well, I'm just saying that we have increased your market rate and the market rate continues to grow. So you've got a couple of factors that they're moving you around. But right. Okay, so this chart that we showed you in the last presentation is all based on that market rate, that salary market index. And so I wanted to bring it back up just to kind of make sure that everybody understands where that came from. So what we're saying here, based on the 60th percentile, again, it's higher than the market median that you used to use. So we are upping the game. We've raised our target, but that's where these numbers came from. So based on those new rates, the number that we're saying is your employees on average are 14% below job market rates. So, and that's on average. Now you do have, if you look at the far right, you have some that are nicely above. But then if you look at the far left, you have some that are sadly below. So that's what we want to work on. Yes, sir.
So saying this, when we did this study the last time too, we realized we had people that were above the market. But we said, don't bother their salary, leave them where they are. Let's catch the rest of them up. Hence, the 14% is below. So when somebody says, well, let's just give everybody a 10% raise across the board, it don't help us any because we're 14% below, and then everybody is not 14% below. There's some further lower than that and some above that. So that 10% blanket don't help me. Even if you said 14%, don't help me. We have to look at each job individually. Correct?
We do look at each job individually. And then once you look at each job, you have to look at each person in the job. But the first step is to look at the job. Yes, sir. Yeah, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Sorry, I was used to saying sir over here. Sorry. And then the last thing, I think it's the last one in here, is the salary range. And so when we create a series of job grades, and they will have, each job grade will have a salary range, and that is just stating that the range there's a minimum, a midpoint, and a maximum that the county's willing to pay for each job. So for example, we have, say we pick job grade 5, and we put a job in grade 5. So that means that for that job, the minimum we want to pay anybody that we hire into a job that we've slated in job grade 5 is $17.48 an hour. We don't want to pay them $16 an hour. We don't want to pay them $17 an hour. We want to pay them at least $17.48 an hour. And then over time, we want to increase that, but we don't really want to pay them more than $24.68 an hour because that would be considered overpaid in the market. So there is a limit to how much we want to pay for a job. In the method that we use, that Steve and I use, the midpoint is the proxy for the market rate. We set the minimum at 85% of that midpoint. Now, in the past, many years ago, most of the time minimums were set at 80% of the market, but that's not really competitive anymore. We tend to see them much closer to the midpoint. Some places, some employers will set them at 90%, but we're trying to be a little bit more conservative and set it at 85, but we really don't think you should go below 85% of the midpoint for your minimums. Maximums, you can set them in lots of different ranges, but we're, again, being somewhat conservative and leaving it at 120% of the midpoint. Now, that could be moved higher or lower, but trying to kind of be somewhat conservative, we're leaving it 120%. So they're a little uneven, but that's where we're recommending that range be. Any questions on any of those definitions? Okay. So let's talk about market pricing and how we price a job. To determine the market rate for a job, we have to understand that job. So we ask for a job description. We have to understand, what does the person in the job do? We need to understand the requirements that the person needs. What education experience does the person need when they walk in the door to be successful in the job? What are the scope of responsibilities? We need to know those things so that we can match that job to the same or similar job in the surveys and the data sources that we have. So we're not comparing each job to other jobs in the county here. We're comparing that job to other jobs in our surveys and our data sources. And so once we pull all of the information from our surveys, we get market rates for all of our jobs, we put together the pay grades. And each pay grade has a pay range we talked about, and we slot every job in the county into one of these pay grades. We make sure that the first pay grade will cover the job in the county that has the lowest market rate, and the highest pay grade will cover the job in the county that has the highest market rate, so that we have the range of all of these will cover everybody. And we slot all of the jobs. Jobs are assigned to the pay grade that the midpoint goes closest to the market rate. Because as I said before, we want that midpoint to become the proxy for the market rate. Because once we finish this and implement this pay study, we're not going to use the market rates every day. Kiana and Bethany are not going to go and look up the market rates every day. They're going to look at the pay grades. And they're going to say, okay, that job's in a pay grade this is how much we pay for it, and move on. Yes, sir.
Just to add to that, so in other words, when they found the market rate for EMT, whatever that was after their study, then they plugged it in where this chart was.
I'm gonna show that. I have an example. Okay. No, you're fine. You're moving right. You're just leading me right in. It's a perfect segue. Sorry, you know. Your job's not in the study, so sorry. You're not covered in here. But I do have a couple of examples for you to try to help visualize exactly what we do for every job. So let's talk about, for example, a county clerk, Deputy County Clerk 3. So for this job, we look at the job description, we talk to the department head to understand, because while Steve and I work with public sector employers all the time, our only clients are public sector employers. That's all we work with. So we kind of know what a deputy county clerk does. But we talked with the department head, elected official, to understand what this job does. We look at the job description. It says that for this particular position, the person needs to have a high school diploma, no specific years of experience needed. And the reason we need to understand that is so that when we go to our surveys, we match it with the same level of job for other counties and for the type of jobs that we can find in our private sector database. So when we look at our market data in our private sector database, a job with a similar job responsibilities comes out to $18.30 an hour. In our public sector database, a specific deputy county clerk with the same general responsibilities and level of requirements comes out at $17.09. We average those two numbers together and we get a market rate of $17.70. So that is the market rate that we have for that job.
Okay, so I'm kind of slow. What's the ERI stand for?
Economic Research Institute.
Okay, and the BTA.
Burris, Thompson and Associates. Yes, ma'am. And he's the Thompson. I'm a Thompson, but we're different Thompsons. I spell it differently. We're not related in any way, shape, or form. He's Steve Thompson, and I'm Beth Thompson. Yes, sir.
What's a deputy clerk 3?
There are 3 levels of these county clerk deputies, and as they progress and go through obtaining additional responsibilities, have more years of service, and do different things within that office, the deputy clerk.
Not related to pay grade 3?
No. I'm going to show you its pay grade here in just a second. But there, in the deputy county clerk office, the grade 3 is the entry level. Then it progresses to grade 2. Then it progresses to, or not grade 2, but county clerk 2, and then deputy county clerk 1. So they have 3 levels of county clerk. We do that and recommend that in a lot of those types of offices, so that there's a progression path for promotion and progression for the employees, so that they have something to reach for and strive for.
And Commissioner Curtis, if you were to say, well, I think I'm gonna do some comparison on that. When you call some places, that 3 is a higher level, they reverse their order, so it's different for everybody.
And in this county, some of the other offices, some of the other elected officials have the entry level is a 1, and the higher level is a 3. This particular one, the clerk 3, is the entry level. So it just depends on the preference of that particular elected official, how they want to call it. So we take the 1770, which is the market rate that we just saw, the combination of the private sector and the public sector number we average together, and we look at our pay grade list, and this is just a small cutout of it, and we select the midpoint that is most closely matched to that market rate. In this case, they're not exact, and they aren't going to be, but the closest one is the $18.51 of a pay grade 4. So that particular position we slot into a pay grade 4. Make sense? And so for every job in the county, we do that. And I have another example. I did 2 different jobs so that you would see, so you would all be able to, yes, sir.
On the documentation, I follow you there, and on the end it says proposed structure index. 60th, you have 104.6%. What does that mean?
Okay. The structure index is the comparison of the market rate to, or the midpoint actually.
From 1770 to the one we do, so it's 104% of that.
Well, actually, it's the midpoint to the 1770. So if you take 1851, divide that by 1770, it's 104. So yes.
So
Yes, sir.
1770, And ours is 1851, so it's 104%.
Yes, sir. And so the intention is that once we do that for all of the jobs in the county, that we get the average of every job in the county. We want it as close to 100% as we possibly can get. We want to get all of the jobs somewhere between 95 and 105% in that structure index. Because we only have 16 job grades here, and so we're not going to have them all right at 100%. To do that, we would probably need to have 26 or 36 grades, and that would be cumbersome for to be administered. That's what that structure market index is. So, first thing I did was I continued this example into the individual person. So we'll get to the other example of a job in a minute. So as we keep on going with the recommendations of the pay study, and once we slot all the jobs, the next thing we do is we go to the individual employee. So picking out one of the individual employees, there were 15 different county clerks, or deputy county clerk 3s, which is why I picked this job, because it's easier to be anonymous that way. This particular individual made $20.95 an hour. When we compare that to the market rate of $17.70 an hour, we get the salary market index of 118.4%, which, if you remember, our happy face and our sad face from before, in this case, this one is in good shape because it's definitely well above 85%. And depending on this individual's tenure, regardless of the tenure, this is definitely one that is paid well for the position. So this individual is definitely fine as far as where they're placed with respect to the market rate. So in our recommendations as far as how the pay plan that we have recommended works, this is the first steps that we would go through. I've put the range for the pay grade, the 4, up at the top, so you see the minimum, the midpoint, and the maximum. And this is the steps we go through for each individual after we've slotted them into the job. So we've done this for every single person in the county. We start with the current pay rate, which is $20.95. We want to make sure that every individual is at the minimum for their pay grade. Remember, that is 15% below the midpoint of the grade. So in this case, the minimum for the grade is $15.74. This person is definitely above that, so there is no increase needed to get that person to the minimum. So the new rate for now is $20.95, no increase. Then what we're doing is we're recommending for anyone that has not already received a 3% increase to get them to the minimum, we want a general increase across the board to everyone in the county of 3%. This person did not receive a 3% increase to get to the minimum, so they're getting a 3% increase here. And that amount is 63 cents an hour, so that's a 3%. That gets the person to $21.58 per hour after the general increase. So for right now, at this stage, we have the person at $21.58 an hour. Everybody with me for the moment?
Is that still the same pay grade of 4?
We're leaving them, this is all staying in the same pay grade. We're not going to move this person out of that pay grade. This is just looking at, we've put them in the pay grade, now it's looking at the individual person's salary.
Okay, how do you who determines when they move up on the pay grade? And do you have
If they move to another job is when they move up on the pay grade.
So they go from county clerk 3 to county clerk, say, 4.
Well, the 4 would be down in this sense. So if they go to a 2, that would be considered a promotion, and that would be moving up to another pay grade.
And those are also defined somewhere?
Yes, the individual job descriptions have the requirements and the responsibilities that are necessary to go from a county clerk 3 to a county clerk 2.
That would be associated with the new pay grade.
Yes, sir. And what we are doing is we're also working with Kiana and Bethany to put together a pay policy that will help define how people move from pay grades up or down, and if they move from one job to another, if it's a lateral transfer, so if they move from one job that's a pay grade 4 to another job that's a pay grade 4, or all of those things, we are going to work with them to help put together a policy that will help cover all of those kinds of situations. But the way to move from one pay grade to another is to move to a different job. That job stays in that pay grade unless the job is redefined. Yes? Mm-hmm. No, if you're below the minimum, we're going to move you to the minimum. I have a different example that will show that very clearly. No, no. Right. The amount needed to move you to the minimum doesn't have anything to do with the 3%. Right. The minimum is the floor. We want you to at least be on the floor. If they didn't already get it to get to the minimum. Because we're trying to save the county at least some money. Yes. And my other example will show you that. I do have one that shows you that. Yes, sir.
I'm just going to say, if you didn't get the 3% going to the minimum, you get the 3% from the current pay grade to get you that.
Yes. Yes. So because this person was already above the minimum, they get a 3% increase. Because we want every single person in the county to at least get 3%. Everybody in the county is going to get a raise of some amount. Minimum 3%. Or the floor of 3%. But we want everybody to have. Yes?
You may be going to answer this, and I didn't go to math school, so I get confused. The pay grades, what makes a deputy clerk 3 a pay grade 4?
That is because the market rate was $17.70.
So it's based on the research of the numbers.
Yes, sir.
Slide me into a pay grade 4.
Right, because when we went, yes.
Yes, ma'am. I understand.
Okay. And so all of that, this person, because they were already above the minimum for the pay grade 4, gets the 3% increase. And that's all they have so far. And we're going to come back to this person in a minute. But right now, we're just going to put a pin in them and kind of leave them hanging. They won't hang for long. They're just going to hang out. They're just going to hang out over here and have a cup of coffee. They're just going to go have a cup of coffee. Because now we're going to talk about a foreman. A different job. And no, I did not know he was a foreman before I did this. I had no idea. I had no idea. I learned that today. I'm sorry. Actually, I learned it at 4 o'clock, so I already had this done. So, all right. So for this particular job, it was another job that had a multiple people and could be anonymous. So, all right. So this particular job, the job requirements listed on the job description showed high school diploma or GED, needed 3 years of experience, and a Tennessee commercial driver's license to come into the job. This job has supervisory responsibilities and, other things that make you a foreman. There are foremen at pretty much every city or county, and there are foremen in the private sector. So it's a job that's pretty easily matched in all of our databases. So, wrong way. So we go into our market data with the private sector database, the ERI. We pull that the private sector will pay $34.30 for a foreman, and our public sector, these people that we talked about, our benchmark people, on average, they will pay $27.02 for a foreman. We average those numbers together and we get $30.66 an hour. That is our market rate for the 60th percentile for a foreman. Okay? We want to slot that into our job grades, our pay grades. So 3066 is closest matched, and it's much closer than the other one. It is closest matched to $31.34 in a pay grade 9. Okay? So then when we look at the individual, this person makes $23.59 an hour. Okay? Our market rate is $30.66 an hour. So we have a very different situation than we did with our deputy county clerk, 3. The salary market index is 76.9. So, yes, we have a sad face because this one is under 85% of market. And so this one we would consider to be an underpaid position.
I think he looks pretty cute. Come on.
Well, you know, if I could have gone back and changed this to any other job after I learned that, I really would have, but oh geez, I really would have changed that. I really would have. I would have. I'm sorry. It really is, but okay. So, all right. So, same example as before. The job grade information, the range is up at the top, the minimum, midpoint, and maximum. So this person makes $23.59 an hour. The minimum for the job is $26.64. Again, it's 15% below the midpoint. The pay rate, as you can see, is below that. So to increase this person to the minimum pay rate for the range, we need to add $3.05 an hour, which is a 12.9% increase. So this is where I said I had a good example of how it would be very different. So the new rate for this individual for now would be $26.64. Because this individual just got to get to the minimum of the range, would not get another increase of 3%. I already got one. We already got almost 13%. So we don't need 3% more right now. So the rate after the general increase that across the county is still $26.64. Does that make sense to everybody at this point? Okay.
So I think that the key that some people will say is, well, I didn't get that 3%.
Well, yeah, you did. You did.
Yeah, and so when we put up the other day, 500 people got this, and so many people did get the 3%. And my people said, wait a minute, how come I didn't get that 3%? That was what I was trying to point a while ago. They definitely will get everybody gets 3.
Everybody in the county gets at least 3. Absolutely. Everybody did.
Which also is another point that we said we can't do 14% across the board. Because some need 12.9, you probably should find some that need more than that.
Well, I will show you that too. You are leading right into it, sir.
And the averages are going to be that way.
Absolutely. So let's talk about real briefly how you place people in the salary range, because we were talking before about one of the problems with pay compression. And if you try to put everybody at, say, 85 or 95% of your salary range, well, that creates pay compression. So this little chart kind of gives you a real just high overview of how you want to have your employees placed in their range. So we have that salary range with your minimum, your midpoint, and your maximum. Generally speaking, your new people would be at the lower part of the range, towards the minimum. They're your new people that need to be shown where the bathrooms are. They need to be taught everything about their job. Where to go, who to talk to, what their requirements are, what's expected of them. They are very dependent on everybody around them to be able to get from point A to point B every day. As they learn, as they grow, as they have more experience with the county, they will move towards the midpoint. Typically, what we see is the intention is for them to be around the midpoint 5 to 7 years in the job. As they continue to grow, as they continue to take on more responsibilities, they're more experienced, they're more independent, they have a lot more knowledge, that's when you expect to see them in the upper part of the salary range. Okay? So, what we recommend to try to relieve some of the compression, it is not going to take care of all of the problem, but to take care of all of the problem is going to cost a lot more than I think you want to spend right now. So, we are recommending service-based adjustments that will at least take the first step. And so this takes care of moving people up to 7 years of experience, kind of spreads them out just a little bit. If you've got 7 or more years of experience, we want you to be at least at market, 100% of market. Below that, if you've only been here a year or less, then 85% is appropriate. That's fine. You are sufficient. As long as you're at the minimum of your range, then you're fine. In between there, a little bit of steps is appropriate as well to kind of spread people out. And then as time goes on, that will continue, as the county continues to move forward, that will continue to work its way out. It's the people at the top, the longer service people, that are the bigger issue. But this is our initial step. So how does that work with the 2 examples we were talking about? Let's look at our Deputy County Clerk 3. This particular example, we left off with that person at $21.58 an hour. That person has 4.5 years of service. So if we look back at our little chart, 3 years but less than 5 years, 95% of the market rate. The market rate for the Deputy County Clerk 3 was $17.70. 95% of that is $16.81. They're above that rate. So they're not going to get an increase to get them to their service-based rate because they're already above it. So their new rate after the pay plan is implemented is going to be the $21.58. The total increase, 63 cents an hour, 3% of their original rate. So this would be an individual that got just a 3% increase. But they're already well paid for the job they're doing. Okay?
Question.
Yes, sir.
Are your years of service continual, or could somebody have 2 years leave, come back, and is that 2 years?
That is determined by the county. We are now, what we would typically do, our preference is usually to do this based on your time in the specific job. That information is not available based on the systems that the county has right now. So what we're actually using is years of service in the county. And we are using what has been given to us. I think it is using breaks, but so if they left and came back, it's all together. But that is based on the policy that the county has. So we're using whatever information has been given to us by Kiana and the payroll system that I think you guys take care of payroll. So Aaron's group does. So whatever they have available is what we were given. And it's, my understanding, it's all service with the county. But we had, or they had, some departments we had time in job and others only time with the county. And that would be unfair to use one method with one group and a different method with a different group. So we use time with the county for everybody. So, so that's how we did that. So when we look at our other example, our foreman, we left off that person at the minimum of the pay range. That's where we had gotten this person to, the $26.64. This particular person has almost 25 years with the county. Now, if you remember our tenure-based chart, anybody that had 7 or more years of service, we wanted them to be at 100% of the market rate. The market rate for this job was $30.66. So we want this particular individual to be at $30.66. Well, that means another increase here of $4.02, or 15.1%, making a combined total increase of $7.07, or 30% from the original pay rate to get to that service-based target rate of $30.66. So that is how the whole pay plan would affect this particular individual altogether. But no, they did not get the 3% general increase separately. They got 30% total. I think adding 3% would be a little more. No, yeah. So, are there any questions on how that played out for people? We did that same method for every individual in the county. Some people, as you can see on this chart, which shows the distribution of the increases across the county. So each bar here represents a different percentage increase. And I separated 3% out by itself so you could see that yes, there are just about 150 people in the county that get only a 3% increase, because based on their time of service with the county, their current pay rate, and adding that 3%, they are appropriately placed as far as their pay rate is concerned, and giving them that 3% general increase is sufficient based on that information. Yes, sir.
What's the total cost of that for the county?
The total cost is shown on that original sheet that we gave you guys, and it was basically rounded up $5.6 million.
Okay, 5.6 million. Can you loan it to us?
That's without benefits.
That's before benefits.
Oh, I'm sorry. You had a picture.
So this allows for the differential. If you come in year one, you're not gonna be making the same now as somebody that's been here 10, 12, 15 years.
Correct. That is the intention. That is the intention. Now, with the caveat that there are some people that were hired well above, I mean, they may have been hired in the last couple of months, sure, that were hired well above their market rate or at their market rate.
6.69.
That's making $18.07 an hour.
Almost 7.
Someone that's been here 12 years shouldn't be making $18.07 an hour.
Theoretically, that is correct. Yes. The intention with all of this method is to separate those that are new from those that have been here for more time, and to relieve that compression. And, you know, given unlimited funds, we would do more, but, you know, $5.6 million does not include the benefits, the payroll taxes, TCRS, any of that.
One more question. In the future, looking at if you gave raises.
Yeah.
Is a raise based on the salary range, or is the raise based on the actual pay somebody gets? What I'm saying is you're keeping the raises all equal based on the range, the median range, or are you basing it on what I'm actually making?
Well, generally, what has been going, what you would look at where the cost of labor in the market, and so people have called it like cost of living so far.
The county said we're giving a 3% raise. What number?
Typically, what is going on, they're doing a 3% across the board, and so everybody would get the 3%. Yes, on the salary.
Not on that salary.
No. The intention is that the way it's set up now is temporary, and we've been working with the mayor and Kiana and Aaron and everyone, and the intention is that we move from pay ranges this year and move towards pay steps in the future, which would be a plan that instead of having a minimum, midpoint, and maximum for your pay grades, each pay grade would have a number of steps that might have a difference of 2.5% or 3% in between each step. And so when you look at it across, you'd have, okay, so this year this employee is at this step, and so next year they would go to the next step, and just on and on and on. And so that seems to be what most of the department heads would prefer, and would like to move towards. And so that is what Steve and I have, talked to them about moving towards in the future. Nobody really felt like we could get there this year. We needed to be able to do something and try to take that first step to get people closer to market and more competitive now. And so kind of phase 1 is this, and phase 2 would be going into the step plan next year. We could do, depending on what funds wanted to, what funds were available, what kind of appetite there was for increased budget next year, we could do an additional adjustment for compression, additional tenure adjustment in the future, but right now it's intended to be a one-time thing. Does that help? Yes, sir.
By the way, if anybody is curious, it's $6,695,000
Yes, sir.
When you have the proposed pay grade and then add the steps to them, you're having a very similar compensation plan that the state does see, correct?
State has a step plan? Yes. Many of our clients have step plans.
I recommend this in 2000.
I'm sorry?
I recommended that back in 2000. Got laughed at.
Nobody listened to.
I wasn't here in 2000. I couldn't be persuasive then.
I was flying airplanes.
Are there any other questions that I can? Yes, ma'am. Oh, for Aaron.
Aaron, how many employees do we have that would be over, say, 10, 15 years?
Wow.
You have 418 employees that are over 7 years.
418
Over
over 7 years?
7 years.
Over 7, okay, thank you.
Aaron, do we have a cost on that, on the pay plan plus the benefits?
$6,695,000.
$695?
If we were to keep you as consultants on our payroll, have you done that to other government employees, have you?
We've actually already, Steve has already sent another engagement letter to Kiana to continue our relationship on to next year. And we do have ongoing relationships with many of our clients. And we're happy to continue to, be more than happy to continue to work with you.
Aaron, how will this be funded without a tax increase?
Well, as I've told you before, there's several things I'm gonna look at. I'm still in the process of looking at some options. Again, I understand the question, I understand why you're asking. I want to reemphasize what I always say: you can only defer, or you can just say, "The heck with it," and walk away. But you can defer it. I mean, I can find you money to limp you along, I believe. If this was all you did, now remember, you got another $3 million in needs that have been brought to you. and you haven't seen.
A lot of
well,
new
you may
positions
see,
been brought
but
too.
You haven't considered what the school system's doing.
In the days, how many new positions have been brought?
So a few, I don't know the exact number, but we had 11 for Weymouth the other day, 11 just for Weymouth.
That's really
Sheriff
don't-
had a few, Sheriff had 10 potentially.
That's gonna dip into the kitty.
If there's nobody to hire,
Yeah. So,
it doesn't matter.
look, let's just for argument's sake said, the best thing that I can do is I can take pennies out of debt service. I can make my debt payments without all this money going into debt service, right? I'm just using this as an example, because all cards are on the table for you right now, okay? Including looking at every department going, how much money are you turning back? Because turn back money is great, and I had to write an answer to a report, and I've had some back and forth with some commissioners. I already account for turn back money in the budget. If I didn't, the budget would be showing going 2-3 million in a hole every year.
Correct.
That's not what y'all wanna do, because we've heard that complaint before about another entity in the county. So we don't do that, we go ahead and account for the turn back money. Plus, I got 26 positions short in Lima right now. So if I take that turn back money from Lima and I apply it to this, what am I gonna use to hire the 26 people back?
Exactly.
Okay? So all that being said, everything is on the table, looking at these departments. If there's a department, I'm gonna use an absurd example. If there's a department that has a $500,000 budget and they're consistently turning back 250,000, they don't need it, right? Now, I'm not saying that department even exists, but I'm saying that I'm going through everything from debt service to everything.
And like,
if
that's a
what you
legitimate-
choose to do is to say, you know what? Forget about the next school we gotta build. Let's take care of the pay plan and we'll deal with the school whenever we have to build it. Whenever we have to build it, we'll deal with it then. Then all I've done is I've helped you push it down the road. That's all I've done, and that's all I can do.
so much of our decision has to come from your analysis
Yes, sir.
of what we've heard.
Yes.
I think to pay our employees appropriately is probably, should be our number one priority. Because there's so many people looking for employees that we have to be competitive and we have to pay our people. And I'd be willing to give up my monthly stipend to help out. Seriously, I don't need it.
I hope you understand that is really at the heart of everybody who's been a part of this. And
I
I
know.
hope you also understand
I'll give it.
that I didn't understand, well, first off, the first time that we saw this is not what we saw exactly. We had to go back and forth on this a few times. I know it took a long time. But this was not the thing. The light bulb didn't come on for me for a little bit in terms of when we finally started getting the tweaks made and the adjustments made to where we needed to be. Because what we looked at first, I think they would be the first to admit, was the instructions we gave them, not what they necessarily wanted to give us, but the instructions that we gave them was not going to move the needle enough for us to make a difference. I mean, it was not going to help us retain NEMA employees or whatever else one bit, the first thing that we saw.
So basically, you're giving us two options, debt service and turn back money, is there another?
I'm just telling you that I'm doing a thorough examination and I will bring you options. Those are two possibilities, but turn back money, I don't want you to consider that as an option, because like I say, I only if I can find departments who are turning back money consistently.
Tell them what they receive.
It would just be, it was silly. Why do you have all that?
I got a question for Ms. Thompson and you, Aaron. Are we 100% sure with this last rendition that we've covered 100% of the county employees? And we're not missing anybody, because we did this several years ago. We missed some people, had to go back and play catch up several times.
We sure did.
Every employee that I have been given, as far as I've received spreadsheets, multiple spreadsheets, every employee I know about is on here. Now, if there are employees that I don't know, if I don't know about all these.
Sure.
So,
Where'd you get your data?
Makes sense.
Where'd you get your data? Kiana or Aaron or where?
Kiana got the data from two different sources. There's a census database and what's the other thing called? Skyward. So, gotten information from both of those databases. I have reconciled it multiple times. Now, there were another 1,000 people that were
Aaron, if you got it from Skyward, it ought to be 100%, shouldn't it?
It should.
And Steve, our method is not to just say, okay, here you go, and we're done. You know, will continue to work with you all until implementation. And the intent is for this to go in, the initial phase to go in July 1st. I'm sorry, I should stand up so y'all can see. And the intent would be for us to continue to work with you all until all the way up to, because you'll have new hires, you'll have terminations, you'll have people move around. Unfortunately, employees do not stay in the same spot for 10 minutes. So, I mean, from the data that I have on these reports, it is probably already obsolete.
One more question. If we implement this, have you, I'm asking for your experience fact, have you in other counties similar to ours implemented pay grades and vision step plans in other counties, and were they successful? Yes or no?
Absolutely.
Where would they be? Which counties?
Steve, why don't you stand up and answer that? He's got like.
He's been quiet all night.
So we're working with, we're doing about 14 of these pay studies right now. We're working with Sumner, Murray County, Williamson County, Rutherford County. We're working with Hamilton County Schools, Clarksville Schools, Murray County Schools, City of Gallatin, City of McMinnville. So
have they been successful when they implemented?
So we have a pretty good batting average, actually. I think largely because of our collaborative approach. I can't claim 100%, but the only time our recommendations were not implemented were in 2008. We were doing the city of Jackson and, curiously enough, the city of Madison County, which is Jackson, at the same time. And of course, recession hit. So neither one of those plans were implemented because nobody had money. Subsequent to that, most of Madison County was piecemeal implemented. I'm actually working with Jackson right now. We're directing the whole thing, and we're trying to move forward with that. The other time it wasn't entirely successful was, if you could say, Coffee County. Basically because they didn't have enough money to fund enough increases for long-term people. The whole thing got torpedoed, except for EMS and the Sheriff's Department, which really liked what we had, so they implemented that for Sheriff and EMS, which, by the way, is mostly employees. But anyway, so other than that, we've had a pretty good batting average, and I think that's why we're in great demand by all these clients. We take great pains to work collaboratively, try to make sure what we come up with actually fits the culture, the budget, and everything else. We try to get all the department heads to get on board. Obviously, we can't satisfy everybody. How many here claim they're well paid? Everybody says they're underpaid. So we're not going to satisfy everybody, but we do a pretty good job, I think.
How many years have you been doing this?
Pardon?
How many years have you been doing this?
I went out, I used to be director of comp and benefits for Dollar General Corporation. Then in 1994, I went out and started this consulting thing with Mr. Don Burris. That's the name Burris Thompson. He has passed away since, but we started doing consulting and hook or crook. We started out mostly for-profit. Now we're 100% public sector stuff. And so we've been doing this for
20 plus years? 20 plus years?
Yeah.
Okay.
30? He's been doing this. Now, I've been doing compensation and retirement since 1995, but I was in the private sector at Ingram Industries until 2019. And I started working with Steve January of last year. So I'm newer to the public sector, but I have lots of experience in compensation and retirement prior to that. I started when I was a baby.
The bitty.
So.
It's understandable. This is the direction I think we need to go, but we've got to be able to afford it, and that's where Aaron comes in. Step plans, grades, that type of thing is where we need to be. People know exactly where they're going when they do that. So
That is the consensus that we have heard from your department heads. This is intended to be the first phase, and then we move on towards the step plan. The because I feel like, I think that a lot of your department heads would be, and a lot of your employees would be a lot more comfortable with being able to see the steps on paper. But yes, we have, I mean, he didn't mention Franklin. I know he's got many of the clients that Steve has had and that we have now are ongoing. They come back many, many times. I mean, Franklin, for example, is one that he's had for years, that they just keep renewing and coming back, and instead of having their HR departments review their stuff, they just call Steve and say, hey.
Does this thing need to be revisited every 3 years, 4 years,
Yes.
5 years?
Absolutely.
We don't need to do a whole big comprehensive case study like this. We
Histor-
typically do these things kind of like every 5 or 7 years with a client. But in the
historically-
interim, every other year, maybe, we'll take a snapshot of, let's say, 30 jobs and benchmark them like we do here, and then tell you, okay, the midpoints are about, on the average, 2% below the market, so we suggest you move your pay ranges 3%, something like that.
Hey, Aaron, when we meet again, you're gonna bring us some possibilities of funding with, in our current situation.
That's for me.
Are you gonna also include other possibilities outside of our current situation, like tax increase or whatever?
Yes, sir. And I intend to provide you with every option that I can think of. At the end of the day, it's what we've talked about all along. And even the step plan, I would like to say two things about that real fast. I know y'all are ready to go home, but the two things real fast. You guys didn't kill it in 2016, the step plan. We didn't kill it in 2016. The department heads killed it in 2016. At that, and most of them were done. At that time, they weren't ready for a step. Now they are. That's good. That's progress.
Aaron, do you pay the road department out from here?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I didn't know whether they separate like the schools or not.
I'm used to the step plan simply because of where I come from, the school system. But right now, our major concern is getting past this one hurdle right now.
Exactly. This is first. So before I even say anything else, this is first. I mean, so when we get this, then we can decide what we do with the steps. The steps open up more questions. But if we don't get here, we never get to the steps.
Can I ask one more question? I promise I'll be quiet. How do you feel about it?
This is your last.
That's my promise, right? Okay, thank you, Will. How does the road department feel about this, going to this system?
Sorry?
I'm talking road superintendent back here. Road superintendent behind me.
We'll go with that 85% it's gonna be tough on us to pay. It's gonna put a pretty good hit on us.
Financially, you mean?
I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm all for employees, I wanna do what we can, we wanna do what we can, but I mean,
Will it hurt you, you mean?
well, Sharon and I have talked about it, and it's gonna be a pretty good hit. This is what we're doing.
Okay, is there any other questions?
Just, as we always do this time, we talk a lot about different scenarios. We always sit down and from here forward organize the sheets of what our needs are and come back and make that in simple form. And we've done that for the past several years, and we'll do that again. And so I just don't want to leave here saying, well, we're going to do this, we're going to raise this, we're going to do this. We don't know that until we sit down on the 31st, and we'll get you those sheets ahead of time and let you know that. So I don't think there's not a need to panic. They're engaged to do the steps as we move forward, if we can encounter that. That's a new territory. So I think we've got a good plan. I hope people understand it today, and we're ready to move forward with that and know what our target value is.